The day they vanished, the stars hung silently beyond the reinforced glass of the command deck, indifferent to the fate of men. Commander Rourke Hayes stood with his arms crossed behind his back, his square jaw clenched and his gray-flecked hair slicked neatly under the soft blue lights. He didn't blink as the ISS Valiant drifted closer to the Zherkaan perimeter. Final checkpoint passed. Came the calm voice of Navigator Seth Varlin. No resistance. Yet, Rourke glanced at him. The young officer's face was pale, but focused. Good. A little fear kept you human. Maintain course. Standard drift speed, shields tight. Keep comes open wideband. From the rear of the deck, Lieutenant Cale Dorn approached. He moved like a man made of lean steel, eyes sunken but sharp. Rourke trusted no one more. They're baiting us. Cale said under his breath, too quiet, too clean. Like they want us right where they can crush us. They do, Rourke replied flatly. But this is the mission. The Valiant was the pride of Earthfleet. An exploration dreadnought's 6 kilometers of layered hull, housing 3 hangar bays, planetary survey suite, and enough firepower to stand against a small moon's defense grid. It wasn't built for stealth. It was built to say, we're here, try and stop us. The diplomatic mission had always felt wrong to Rourke. The Zherkaan Empire wasn't interested in treaties. They were slavers, imperialists, a race of cold-eyed, six-limbed tyrants with tech older than Earth's pyramids. But the Galactic Senate insisted humanity engage peacefully. So they sent the Valiant. They sent him. The first sign came exactly 30 minutes into Zherkaan space. Contact, said Varlin, voice tight. Multiple warp signatures, 3 o'clock high. No transponders, no formation, just scattering like a net. Cale barked, shields up. All guns warm. Hold, Rourke said. Let them make the first move. They did. The lights dimmed for half a second. A low hum echoed through the decks. Then the ship rocked, hard. Not from impact, but from space itself. EMP surge, shouted Engineer Meckens over the comm. Localized warp disruption. We're being boxed in dimensional anchors. The bridge windows shimmered with collapsing hyperspace as alien vessels tore free of slip space around them. Hundreds, no, thousands of dagger-shaped warships surrounded the Valiant in every direction, forming a lattice of red light. The trap had snapped shut. On the comms, a cold voice echoed, guttural, hissing, translated automatically. Primitive species. You are in violation of Imperial law. Your vessel is seized. Surrender. No diplomacy, no warning. Only domination. Rourke moved fast. All hands, battle stations. Cale, full evasive. Prioritize the dreadnought's cut through the net. Cale nodded and snapped orders across the command net. Within seconds, the Valiant roared to life, missile bays opening like blooming metal flowers. Its spinal railgun charged with a thunderous crack. Fighters spilled from the hangars like hornets. The first blast took out 5 enemy cruisers in one pulse. But for each ship they destroyed, 20 more slipped into formation. This isn't a skirmish, Cale muttered. It's an execution. Rourke didn't disagree. The Zherkaan had prepared for this for years. Draw them in, trap the flagship, and send a message to Earth. But they hadn't accounted for one thing. Rourke wasn't done yet. Divert core. Power 2 engines, he barked. Punch a hole, any direction. We're not dying here. Sir, if we overdrive the core, we risk, do it. The ship bucked again, groaning as it tore toward the edge of the net. The screen filled with flashes. Friendly fighters shredded, shield flares dying. Then came the second wave. Zherkaan boarding pods. Dozens of them, needle-shaped, punctured. The hull with magnetic clamps and fusion drills. Alarms blared. Deck reports scrolled red. Fire, breaches, hand-to-hand combat. Kale drew his sidearm. I'm going to the central junction. We can't let them take the AI core. Go, Rourke, said. Hold the line. Kale gave a tight nod and vanished down the lift. Outside, the Dreadnought's railgun fired one last time, piercing a Zherkaan command ship. A bloom of violet flame marked the impact, but the noose kept tightening. Commander, said Varlon, breathing hard, we can't win this. No. But we can survive. Rourke turned to the helm. Prepare the Maelstrom Protocol. Varlon froze. That's uncharted space. We don't even know what's in there. Exactly. And they sure as hell won't follow. It was a suicidal move. The Maelstrom expanse was the graveyard of ships. A region of warped gravity, ancient AI anomalies, and rogue stars. But it was their only chance. Either die here or disappear into the void. Navigation set, Varlon said after a beat. Coordinates locked. No guarantee of exit vectors. Understood. Rourke opened, ship-wide comms. His voice, gravel and iron, echoed through the burning. Decks. This is Commander Hayes. We're initiating Protocol Black. This is not the end. If you're hearing this, hold fast. We're going dark. Survive. Adapt. We will return. Then he nodded to Varlon. Jump. The world exploded into blinding white. Earth received the last transmission 2 hours later. A broken signal, a scrambled code, a distorted voice. Maelstrom. Alive, hold. 11 years, return. Then, silence. The Valiant was declared lost with all hands. Monuments were built, speeches given. Rourke and his crew were mourned as heroes. A new flagship was named in his honor. But in the shadows of Earth's military command, some weren't so sure. The jump data suggested the ship hadn't been destroyed, just misplaced. Beyond mapped space, they filed it away, red-stamped it. 2. Risky to investigate, and the galaxy moved on. The Zherkaan, emboldened by their victory, expanded deeper into neutral sectors. Their broadcasts played edited clips of the Valiant's final moments, twisted into propaganda. Let this be the fate of those who challenged the Empire. But in a region no map could chart past dying stars and forgotten machines. A human dreadnought floated silent, wounded but alive. Inside its fractured hull, survivors regrouped, modified, evolved, waiting, planning, and far from Earth, Commander. Rourke Hayes stood in the dark, his reflection cast in the cracked glass of the observation deck, eyes cold as the stars beyond. He whispered to himself, not as a vow, but as a promise. We're not done. In the belly of the void, the first thing Commander Rourke Hayes noticed upon regaining consciousness was the silence. Not the silence of vacuum or sleep, but the dense, oppressive hush that followed catastrophe. His ears rang faintly, his vision blurred. Emergency lights pulsed red across the ceiling like the heartbeat of a dying beast. He pushed himself up from the steel floor, muscles aching, and looked around the shattered command deck. Smoke coiled from consoles, sparks danced in the air. The stars beyond the fractured viewport were unfamiliar, burning dim and crooked, smeared across a backdrop of violent blue distortion. He was still alive. Somehow. Status report. He croaked, voice hoarse, no response. Then, a flicker of motion. Kale Dorn staggered into view, his left arm in a makeshift sling, uniform soaked in dried blood. His eyes met Rourke's, and something passed between them. Not relief, not fear, just grim, mutual recognition. They had survived. You really punched us into hell, Kale muttered, coughing hard. Rourke nodded slowly. Better hell than chains. It took hours to restore basic systems. Of the original 200 crewmen aboard the Valiant, 126 had survived the jump. Most were injured. All were shaken. The ship had torn through some kind of subdimensional rift on its way out of Zherkaan territory, ripping through slipspace like a blade through skin. Navigation logs were corrupted. External sensors scrambled. The ship had been spat out into a dead zone, no stars within range. No comm relays, no known markers. They were alone. Worse, this place wasn't empty. Within days, the Valiant began detecting anomalous signals, fractal pulses of noise, repeating patterns, fragments of languages never recorded in any galactic archive. Probes sent out didn't return. One shuttle was swallowed by a collapsing singularity that didn't appear on any scans until it was too late. Lieutenant Kale took charge of internal security while Rourke re-established chain of command. The crew was fracturing, men drifting toward despair, whispers of mutiny, others obsessed with deciphering the strange signals. One junior tech swore he saw a city of lights hovering inside a dark nebulant till he shot himself the next morning. "We're sitting on the edge of a machine graveyard," Kale said one night in the war room, standing over the flickering holomap. "Whatever built this place, it isn't dead, just dormant. And it's watching." Rourke leaned over the console. His stubble had turned to a short beard, eyes rimmed with exhaustion. "We adapt, or we die here." It wasn't just words. It became doctrine. Over the months that followed, the Valiant transformed. They began salvaging fragments from wrecked alien crafts that drifted silently through the void ships with impossible geometry. Reactors that folded energy instead of burning it, circuits made of crystalline neural strands. Chief Engineer Meekins, one of the few surviving scientists, called them precursor tech. Nothing in human archives came close. At first, they feared infection, AI contamination, data collapse. But necessity stripped away fear. They learned to interface. Piece by piece, the Valiant became something new. No longer Earth-made, but something hybrid, evolving in real time. The railguns were rebuilt with gravitic accelerators. The hull was reinforced with reactive alloy, harvested from derelict constructs. Their FTL drive, once a cumbersome, energy-hungry beast, was replaced with a dimensional shifter that folded the ship into the seams of space. Fuel was no longer an issue. Time and distance became relative, but technology alone wouldn't save them. Rourke drilled the crew relentlessly. Each man had to fight, repair, pilot, adapt. Rank became fluid roles earned through necessity, not insignia. Kale trained them in zero-G close-quarters combat. Varla, now half bionic after an electrical fire, became the ship's new strategic AI liaison, interfacing directly with the precursor core they'd pulled from a floating ruin. As months bled into years, the men changed. Some physically injuries replaced with alien bioreplacements. Neural upgrades, enhancing reflexes, perception. Others mentally hardened, cold, stripped of the weakness they once carried. What remained was a brotherhood bound by survival and fury. They never forgot Earth. But Earth had surely forgotten them. One night, Kale found Rourke staring at an old photograph in his quarters. A faded image of Earth's skyline, the old cities, oceans. Kale didn't say a word. He just stood there, waiting. Rourke finally spoke. "They thought we died in silence, that we were gone. But this silence taught us how to speak louder." Kale nodded. "You planning on sending a message?" Rourke's lips curled into a smile, thin, sharp, predatory. "We're going to be the message." In their 11th year in the expanse, the Valiant encountered the most dangerous anomaly yet. A construct the size of a planet, entirely mechanical, orbiting a dying star. Its surface shimmered with motion. Endless arrays of moving parts, ports opening and closing, like gills. It broadcasts no warnings, no signals, only one repeating phrase in distorted ancient code. "Debt remains." Kale argued for retreat. So did Meccans, but Rourke was unmoved. We didn't come this far to flinch. They approached cautiously, deploying drones, mapping surface architecture. What they found inside changed everything. The construct wasn't a weapon. It was a vault. Inside were records millennial data from forgotten empires, war logs, genetic blueprints, galactic topographies long erased from modern archives, and among them records of the Zherkaan, their rise, their conquests, their war crimes, footage, sealed transcripts, images of mass exterminations on pre-FTL civilizations, evidence of experiments on human prisoners dating back before Earth had even discovered jump drives. The Zherkaan had always known about humanity, had watched them rise. The ambush wasn't fear, which was preemption. Kale stared at the footage, fists clenched. Like, we're afraid of what we'd become. They were right, Rourke said. That night, the decision was made. The crew gathered in the main chamber, every survivor, every scarred face. Rourke addressed them from the core platform, voice hard as iron. 11 years ago, we were soldiers, explorers, idealists. They tried to bury us here in silence. But we did not break. We did not fade. He paused, letting the silence hang. We are no longer the Valiant. We are the reckoning. Cheers erupted, some savage, others solemn. Every man in that room had lost something. A home, a brother, a piece of their soul. But they had gained clarity. This wasn't just survival anymore. It was retribution. Kale approached Rourke after the assembly, his voice low. Once we go back, there's no diplomacy left. Earth might not approve. Rourke looked him dead in the eyes. We're not going back for Earth's approval. We're going back so no one ever tries this again. A week later, the Valiant Treeborn, reforged, pierced the fabric of space and began the long journey home. They would return not as victims, but as a warning, and the galaxy would remember what it meant to provoke humanity. Return of the Valiant, the storm began with silence. Long-range sensors in Galactic. Sector 7 registered a gravitational anomaly large enough to be mistaken for a mobile planetoid. No origin. No transponder. No signature matching any known race. By the time the local defense station tried to triangulate its position, it was already gone. 17 minutes later, the Zherkaan garrison orbiting Threx 9 ceased all communication. No alarms. No broadcasts. Just absence. Then came the first video-leaked footage from a fleeing smuggler vessel. A towering dreadnought cutting through a fleet of Imperial warships surrounded by an eerie distortion field. The footage was grainy, chaotic, filled with static bursts. But one image repeated across galactic channels like a specter. A dark ship. A shattered hull now plated with alien alloy. Engines howling with unnatural energy. And a name burned into the metal like a brand across time. Valiant Earth's Strategic Command convened an emergency session. High Admiral Levance, now in his 60s and heavy with bureaucratic wear, stared at the projection with sunken eyes. This can't be real, he muttered. They were declared lost over a decade ago. But the data said otherwise. The energy readings matched fragments of the original Valiant's core signature, amplified exponentially. And the command codes embedded in the leaked transmission. Rourke Hayes' personal encryption key. Cocked for 11 years. The room fell silent. Then Levant said, quietly, open a channel. Try to reach them, on the far edge of known space. The Valiant, if it could still be called, that waited in orbit. Above the burning husk of Threx 9, the Zherkaan stronghold below was reduced to slag. Black smoke coiling through the planet's thin atmosphere. Entire battalions had been annihilated in minutes. Defense arrays hacked and turned inward. Their pride, their technology. Their legacy reduced to ruin. Commander Rourke Hayes stood in the central observation chamber, watching the slow spin of the world below. His face had aged beyond its years, carved with quiet rage and time's cruel chisel. He wore no uniform, now only matte black armor with precursor-linked neural threads snaking across his spine. At his side stood Cale Dorn, arms folded, expression unreadable behind a cracked visor. Cale broke the silence. They'll be coming soon. Zherkaan reinforcements. Maybe Earth, too. I want them to, Rourke replied. He turned from the viewport. Eyes like steel beneath frost. Around him, the ship thrummed with a new kind of life. Not the methodical hum of human engineering, but something deeper, more ancient. Half the systems no longer responded to voice or buttonly thought, intent. The Valiant had become a living thing. A communications chime echoed in the chamber. Lieutenant Varlin, now more machine than man, projected the incoming transmission. Origin, Earthfleet, Admiral Advance. Priority 1. Rourke said nothing. Cale arched a brow. You going to answer it? No? Cale looked at him for a moment, then nodded. Good. Across the galaxy, news spread like fire through dry fields. The Valiant, the symbol of Earth's ambition, the martyr of the Zherkaan Empire, had returned, and not quietly. The ruins of Threxnine broadcast their presence, louder than any declaration. On the fringe worlds, humans cheered. On the Senate floor, alien delegates argued whether it was possible. The Zherkaan, for the first time in centuries, deployed their High Legion. But beneath the bluster, fear was blooming. They had buried a ghost. Now it had claws. Another Zherkaan. Outpost Sirith Prime was the next to fall. This time, the Valiant didn't fire a shot. It arrived, hovered for 3 hours, and then transmitted a data packet to every major media node in the sector. The footage inside showed a recording, unaltered and verified. Zherkaan soldiers conducting live experiments on captured human colonist children. Among them, voices crying out, cold alien laughter. One Zherkaan officer giving a direct order. Ensure the Terran subject does not survive re-entry. The galaxy recoiled. Outrage swelled. Old alliances cracked. Some neutral powers broke from Zherkaan control. Others opened secret channels to Earth, quietly requesting protection in every corridor of power. The same question emerged. What has the Valiant become? Back aboard the ship, Cale met Rourke in the command chamber, reports in hand. Earth's trying harder now. They're asking for a summit. Public, open invitation. Claim they want to debrief and celebrate your return. Rourke said nothing. His eyes locked on a massive Zherkaan fleet, mobilizing in real time on the star map. He could predict their tactics now. Their fear had made them predictable. Cale stepped closer. You think they want to bury us again? I think they want to put us in a cage. One way or another, Cale smirked. Good luck with that. Third strike came at Alice's Forge, a weapons development world deep in Zherkaan territory. This time, Rourke didn't hold back. The assault was surgical. The Valiant emerged from folded space 20 kilometers above the Forge, deployed a gravitic rupture torpedo, and collapsed the planet's crust into its molten core. The entire hemisphere shattered in a single blast. Over 10 million casualties. No survivors. The galaxy shuddered. What had once been a symbol of hope had become a myth of retribution. And still, Earth reached out, pleading. So finally Rourke answered. The call was brief, grainy, no background. Just him, seated on his throne of alloy and silence. Levance's face appeared on the screen, weary. Commander Hayes, you've caused a great deal of disruption. The Council is demanding answers. I gave them answers 11 years ago, Rourke said calmly. They ignored them. You've escalated this conflict beyond reason. No, Rourke replied. I've shown them reason has limits. Levance exhaled. What is it you want? There was a long pause. Then Rourke leaned forward, and his voice dropped. Memory? I want them to remember what they did, what they tried to erase. I want every world, every empire, every species to understand this. You don't bury men like us. We dig our way out. We come back sharper. The feed cut. That night, the Valiant moved again, but not toward another Zherkaan target. This time, it approached Sinnoh's 4 Prime, the Galactic Senate's home world. The galaxy held its breath. No shots fired. No declarations, just a presence. The dreadnought hung in the black sky, visible from every major city. Its size blotted out constellations. Its hull gleamed with cold intelligence, covered in strange markings, part human, part other. From its main comes a ray. A single phrase was broadcast in every known language. Let this be the last time you confuse silence for weakness. Inside the command chamber, Kale sat beside Rourke, weapons on standby. You think they got the message? Rourke stared into the void, unblinking. They will. No one dared challenge the Valiant that night. The Senate issued no orders. Zherkaan fleets stood down. Civilians lit candles beneath the stars in cities, across hundreds of systems. A myth had returned. But it wasn't just about vengeance. Anymore, Rourke had seen the truth in the expanse. What was coming? The Zherkaan were a symptom. The galaxy was rotting from the center out. Corruption, apathy, predators in noble robes. The civilizations that claimed to lead were too soft to survive what lay ahead. He would not let humanity fall with them. The final line was drawn. Kale Dorn turned toward him, adjusting his shoulder armor. What now, Commander? Rourke rose. Slowly, his eyes locked on the holographic star map, one sector blinking in deep red. Zherkaan Prime. We finish what they started. K, watching from behind trembling governments and fractured alliances, waited. Because vengeance had returned, and it wore a human face. Judgment Day for the Zherkaan homeworld of Erekthune had never been touched by war. Its twin suns cast long, golden shadows over obsidian spires. Its streets built from the bones of conquered civilizations, paved in arrogance and blood. No fleet had ever pierced its planetary defenses. No enemy had stood on its soil in over 5,000 years. That belief ended the moment the Valiant arrived. It didn't announce itself, it didn't deploy scouts or issue warnings. It unfolded into existence like a storm appearing mid-sky, sudden, vast, inevitable. From orbit, it loomed like a celestial judgment. Larger than any of the Zherkaan's imperial cruisers, its hull lined with etchings of languages too old to trace. Some said they saw faces in its armored shell. Others claimed to hear voices when the engines stirred. The truth didn't matter. Fear had come home. Within moments, the outer defense ring opened fire. Planetary cannons, powered by stellar cores, lanced upward, streams of antimatter and magnetized plasma piercing the void. The Valiant didn't dodge. It simply absorbed the blasts into its precursor-forged shields, the energy dispersing across its surface like ripples on dark water. Inside the command deck, Commander Rourke Hayes watched the chaos unfold with a stillness born not from calm, but from certainty. He had stared into worse. He had survived the void. Kale Dorn stood beside him, tightening the strap on his chest armor. The years had turned him into a weapon, lean, efficient, deadly. The man had stopped smiling sometime around year 5 in the Maelstrom and hadn't found a reason since. You know they're not going to surrender, Kale said, eyes fixed on the tactical display. Rourke didn't look away from the screen. I'm not here for surrender. Below them, the Zherkaan war fleet scrambled from atmospheric hangars. Over 1,000 ships, shaped like hooked talons and fanged predators, rose into orbit. It was the greatest show of force the Empire had ever assembled, and it wasn't enough. Rourke raised his hand. Engage. The Valiant came alive. Its spinal core released a low-frequency hymn that cracked the sound barriers of every ship within 30 kilometers. Its main cannon, rebuilt from precursor tech, fired a singular pulse of inverted mass. The beam didn't destroy the first wave of ships. It erased them. No explosion, no wreckage. Just silence. Then came the kinetic blade's javelins of forged neutronium, accelerated to impossible speeds. They tore through hulls, shattered formation lines, turned the battle into debris and fire. The Valiant's smaller assault ships deployed from its underbelly like predators loosed from a cage. Crewed by men who had trained for 11 years with one purpose: end this war. Kale personally led the boarding team assigned to the Zherkaan. Command carrier? The breach was brutal. No hesitation. Close-quarters combat in narrow corridors. Zherkaan soldiers with blade limbs and acid breath met Terran shock troopers with carbon-reinforced bones and reaction time implants. The halls ran slick with alien blood. Kale moved like a phantom, weapon rising and falling in controlled bursts. When he reached the command bridge, he found the Zherkaan fleet admiral attempting to self-destruct the vessel. Kale shot his arm off before the code was finished. "I want you alive," he said coldly, "so you can hear what's coming." He left the admiral bleeding on the floor. A message. Back in orbit, Earth fleet finally arrived. A dozen Terran cruisers blinked into view, broadcasting emergency diplomatic orders. "Commander Hayes," came the voice of Admiral Evance. "Stand down. You're risking war across the quadrant. We can handle this through the Council." Rourke activated the transmission. "No, you had your chance to handle it. We buried the dead. You buried the truth. The galaxy's watching." Levance insisted. "I want them to watch." He cut the feed. The Valiant descended. Planetary shields failed under a focused beam that rewrote the laws of thermodynamics for 90 seconds. Rourke didn't need to destroy the capital. He needed to expose it. The ship hovered just above the Imperial Palace. Its external speakers amplified a voice that hadn't echoed in Zherkaan space since their betrayal over a decade ago. "This is Commander Rourke Hayes of the Valiant," he said. Voice steady, deep, and final. "You thought time would silence what you did, that the dark would keep your secrets. But we came back from the dark." He paused, letting the words settle over the trembling world below. "Your empire ends today." The data packet transmitted moments later was laced into every planetary network, every government feed, every personal device. It contained the full, unaltered records of Zherkaan atrocities, the secret wars, the genocide cover-ups, the black site experiments, the betrayal of peace. Envoys. But it didn't end there. The last file was a live stream. It showed the surviving crew of the Valiant, now veterans of a hidden war, lined in silent rows behind Rourke. Men who had suffered in silence. Men who had forged themselves into something harder than steel. "These are the ghosts you made," Rourke said, "and now we haunt you." On the planet's surface, riots broke out. Resistance cells once believed crushed rose with new fury. Entire battalions of Zherkaan soldiers laid down their arms. Civil unrest became planetary upheaval. The Empire cracked and in orbit. As chaos unfolded below, Kale returned to the command deck. His armor bore the marks of the battle acid burns, a fractured pauldron. Blood not his own. "It's done," he said. Rourke nodded, exhaling slowly. "No, not yet." Kale glanced at him. "We could burn the world," he said. Rourke turned to him. "We could." But we won't let them live with what they tried to erase. He turned to Varlin. Transmit one final message. The AI liaison's voice echoed back. Ready. Rourke faced the camera again. Humanity forgives slowly. But it remembers. Forever. Then the Valiant turned its engines toward the stars. They didn't stay to rule. They didn't demand tribute. They didn't take prisoners. They had come for justice. And justice had been delivered. In the weeks that followed. The galaxy shifted. Empires once secure began to question their foundations. New alliances formed. The myth of human weakness was shattered beyond repair. Earth's fleet offered full pardons to the Valiant's crew. Parades, medals, public absolution. None of them returned. Rourke declined every communication. Kale disabled all diplomatic relays. The Valiant vanished once more this time. By choice, they became the Sentinels, a rogue fleet, patrolling the galactic void, intercepting threats before they reached known space. No longer bound to one world, one species, or one government. They were men forged by betrayal, tested by oblivion, and reborn in fire. And whenever a world went dark, whenever tyrants rose and thought themselves untouchable, they remembered the black ship with no flag and the man who came back from silence.